Hi, today we're going to be talking about our seventh lesson, which is on sustainable cities. Today what I'll be showing is an interview that I conducted with a local builder in Brown County, which is in south central Indiana. This particular home is one of the first in our area where we are looking at passive development. Brown County is a rural community in south central Indiana. It is an area that has been revitalized by attracting a number of people that are involved in sustainable living. This particular home is on the top of a ridge in the middle of a Brown County state forest. The interview you're going to see suggests that there's a number of interesting features about this house. First of all, it's what we call a passive home. That means it has no furnace and no air conditioning. The house is heated strictly by the way it absorbs and cools by the way it's shaded from the trees and surrounding landscape. A couple of things I just want to point out is in the very first set of slides there is no sound, so I apologize for that. I didn't realize I didn't have the microphone on, but I never did say I was a director, so hopefully that won't be too distracting as you watch the first set of slides. One thing I want to point out though is that as you're watching the first video, you'll be looking at the exterior of the home. All of the exterior of the home is made of passive recycled materials. There's concrete siding. There's a lot of plastics that are involved. And the woodwork that is the main focus of the home, which is a beam construction, was actually put together without any nails. So everything about this house is really very, very interesting. What you will see shortly will be a series of external shots. I am trying to show you, although I thought I was narrating, and I guess I wasn't. The exterior of the home, the fact that the concrete base of this parking area is not a slab, but rather a series of stone pressed substrate so that we have a pervious substrate so it can absorb water. One of the other features of this house is that it is on the side of a very steep hill, and what I'm trying to show you in the valley is how they position the mound septic system and also their water feature. Okay, thank you.
And we were just starting our preliminary design in the house, and I mentioned to them and said, would you be interested in, looking at the possibility of a passive house? And they were very receptive, and so we fortunately started from conceptual design to design the house around not only the timber frame, but also the combination of the timber frame and what we use are panels. They're SIPs, structurally insulated panel, and that is the basis of the enclosure of the house. What we're doing is because timber frame is a completely internal structure, it allows us to use the SIPs in the insulation as a complete thermal break, because it doesn't require any of the conventional structure that you would have in a conventional house. You don't have studs or headers or floor framing because that's all internal with the timber frame.
Oh, that's interesting.
And really the major basis of a passive house is that I guess, non-thermal bridging. In other words, there's no piece that goes from the outside to the inside. There's no structure, there are no fasteners, there are no items that can transfer heat and cool from the outside to the inside and vice versa.
Now, is this the first house you've designed, or have you done others in other locations?
This is the first passive house.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
So this
How
is a
exciting.
real big deal then, yeah.
This is a big deal.
That's
Yes.
great.
This is, I
In
can
fact,
see why you're so
I kind
excited.
of joke when I first talked to the Wheatles, who are the customers. I said, "You guys are guinea pigs,"
Yeah.
and they accepted that role.
That's
which
good.
is pretty incredible. Yeah.
Now, is the house solar, and is it completely off the grid, or is
It's
this?
not completely off the
Okay.
grid. We can come on.
Sure.
It is passive solar, so
Okay.
that it does utilize the orientation is a southern orientation.
Mhm.
This is south facing.
Mhm.
The glazing on that wall is about 750 square feet, so that's where we're getting a lot of our solar gain on the house. What we also do is, because the other orientations of the house, either east or west, actually are more negative to the interior, because you get actually overheating from the west and overheating from the east, because your sun is more, you have that sun orientation more consistently on those elevations than you do with the south. Kind of hard to explain. So there's a lot involved in terms of design on and especially with the glazing, because that's the piece of the envelope that is the hardest to control, but also has the most potential for, the solar gain and using that for heating of the building. So that's and not only is it a complexity from that point, but one of the things about the Midwest that makes a passive house even more interesting or complicated is that you have not only heating loads, but you also have cooling loads. So you have to design for both of those considerations. Where, say, if you're in more of a northern climate, it's really more of just a heating load.
That's right.
Southern climate, obviously,
Cooling.
just a cooling load. So this is,
Kind of both.
Both, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to really look at the location of the sun, in the summer and the winter time, in terms of really maximizing solar gain in the winter time and minimizing in the summer. So what's really beautiful about this site is that it's a deciduous forest.
Right.
So we're in the trees.
Yes.
In the summertime, you've got the leaves, which really help in terms of shading, and in the wintertime, the leaves are gone.
Yeah.
So that allows.
And I can see you use some of the design elements you brought into the house, so it does look like a tree trunk.
Sure.
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, we grew. No, I'm just kidding. And that's part of our. Our design definitely comes from not only that passive, but also from an architecture.
Yes. Very, very pretty.
Kind of jokingly, when I went up to do the Passive House seminar, there were a lot of slideshows that were done, and I was thinking to myself, there's a lot of opportunity here for design. There were nothing against engineers,
Right.
but a lot of the projects kind of look more like science projects.
Like
people
erector set
probably
style
wanna,
stuff.
Yeah, they think we need to design it for people.
Yeah. Oh, this is nice.
But yeah, it's been a really enjoyable project.
So obviously the Beamery is what this is called, and
Yes.
it's because of, and I can see you didn't use nails. You
There are
used,
no nails. This
Yeah.
is it's a traditional mortise and tenon joinery.
yeah,
As you see all the pegs, those
Yes.
are oak pegs. It's done from a historical perspective that, I tell people there are timber frames that are thousands of years old. But what's neat about the passive house is it's allowing us to use timber frame, the historic traditional process of timber framing, but with a mix of more of the technical and technology in the sense of the panels and
Mhm.
the passive house.
Mhm,
So it's
mhm.
really a wonderful combination of the two.
And I also noticed the glass panes. Is that triple pane glass?
It is triple pane, low E, Krypton
Yeah.
glass.
Krypton.
Yes. It's actually it's a manufacturer that's local in Indiana. They are. It is a full vinyl formed frame. A typical American window, you're looking at about on the R scale, of about a 2.5 to 3 R value. These windows are R10.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
Significant increase.
And the walls are 8 inches thick?
The wall
Bigger,
insulation
thicker?
is approximately 8 inches. With finishes and things, they're about 11 inches.
11 inches.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
One of the other main aspects of the house is that it is because it's so tight,
Mhm.
air, obviously air circulation and fresh air is very important.
Mhm.
I tell people that a typical house breathes through air infiltration,
Mhm.
which air infiltration is virtually the air is coming through your walls.
Mhm.
Typically not what you'd want
Right,
happening.
right.
I ask people, do you want to breathe the air that's coming through your wall? One of the things with a passive house is we actually, because the house is so tight, bring the air in through what's called an ERV, an energy recovery ventilator.
Mhm.
That brings fresh air in and exhausts the stale air out through that mechanism, which allows some heat exchange from your outgoing air. Say, for instance, in the wintertime when you've got air that's, say, below, sub-zero temperatures, the ERV actually brings that cold air in, passes it by the exhaust warmer air and preheats that air. So you have control of that fresh air.
Yeah. And is there a way to regulate the heat then? I mean, is there a way to I mean, typically when one thinks of a furnace, you have settings, and you would set it for 72,
Sure.
for example. How does the ERV kind of work?
You can regulate it. One of the things that is different about a passive house is that it's very slow to
Right.
change.
Right.
So it's a little harder, and because you're relying on more passive sources of heating and cooling,
Mhm.
in fact, you may even notice the house is actually warmer today than it normally is because we have people. There
Right.
actually have been lots of people in the house.
Yes.
Which that is the basis for passive. Actually, a passive house is heated through internal heat sources other than a furnace.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
those are things that, and one of the things we're doing, because this house has just been constructed, I'm going to go through this next coming year and we're going to tweak, and
Sure.
because there are things that affect the way the environment is generated inside. But it is somewhat controllable. We do have a backup, what's called a mini split air-to-air heat pump, that we have 2 point sources that do both cooling and heating for the house. It's an 18,000 BTU unit, so obviously very small.
Yeah.
But that helps to make up
Sure.
a little bit of that difference.
Sure. Sure.
Am I off stage now?
So I just asked about the temperature and regulation. This past winter was one of our worst winters that we've had in a long time.
Yeah, and the incredible test. We actually were still under construction on the building. We were doing interior trim in January and February, and we had 2 small space heaters. We had about 5,000 BTUs of heat in the house, and the guys, I kind of joke, were working in their t-shirts.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that
that's
was
nice.
really, for me, I don't know how to put it, but you know, this being the first house with
Right.
this type of design, I was very relieved. You know, I was relieved.
Sure.
You know, when we were going through, and as we mentioned, I mean, incredible winter for a test.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's really meeting, you know, I think the concerns and standards on the heating side. You know, as we mentioned, it's really the next major step is going to be the cooling side.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
Um,
So far, so good.
yeah, I'm confident with that.
And with
you know,
all these trees and the leaves and the evapotranspiration from the woods, it's gonna
I think
really
that's
help.
gonna
It's
make
really
a
gonna help.
huge-
Yes.
yeah.
So the idea is when you were building on the lot, you tried to. I see that you didn't cut trees way back.
Oh, very, very little.
Yeah, you kept a really minimal footprint for the house,
Yeah.
and it looks like as far as all the natural rock, so you have rock substrate coming in on the driveway,
Rock
so
substrate.
so that there's better drainage and there's
Yeah,
it-
the drainage is phenomenal on this site. I mean, we're, you know, and as all sites go, this was an excellent site.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when we first came to look at the property with the owners, you know, it was pretty easy to pick the site. This was really the spot, and
You can't say that every day when you're trying to get semis.
that with
well,
the
yeah,
with the
I was gonna say
materials.
the
I bet-
logistics. Now the logistics
Just- it's a
of
different
building
story.
on this
Yeah,
site was
a little bit different,
story.
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you had to look at? I mean, just I realize it's kind of you're at the top of a hill, so I'm guessing
Sure.
the hill was a little bit rounded, and maybe you had to cut and fill some areas to make it more level.
Yeah, on the actual site itself, we did, you know, we were able to kind of maximize the cut and fill. You know, we located the elevation so that we got positive, you know, obviously positive drainage on the north side, the entrance side. And we did have a little bit of a elevation difference on the south side. We actually had to bring up some with our stone, you know, to make sure that that elevation worked. Really more the challenge was probably, well, the septic was the challenge.
I took a picture as we came in. It's
Very,
it's a mound system that you put on the side. Is that more like a?
Actually,
Is it
it's
more
not
like a mound? It's
system.
not.
It is-
Okay.
It is actually a new technology.
Okay. I'm not aware of it then.
And part of it, and that's really not my expertise.
Oh, sure.